Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Triggerlogy. I've been thinking lately about the Republican and the Democratic Party on how divided and deceptive politics can be. So I decided to talk about the history of discrimination of the Democratic Party. At the end of this episode, you will see and understand why, as a black man, I can never be a Democrat. Maybe nor should you. And especially the black Americans. I'm not even a Republican either. I'll tell you why in the next episode, but for now, the Democratic Party has the spotlight. Let's get into it. Did you know that the Democratic Party defended slavery, started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, founded the KKK, imposed segregation, perpetuating lynchings? I bet you didn't know that. The Democratic Party fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 50s and 60s. If you like this podcast and you want to see or hear more of it, perhaps you may consider being a supporter by clicking the link in the description below. For the price of a cup of coffee, you can become a supporter of this show. Thank you for your consideration. In 1857, a case seeking to abolish slavery entirely was introduced to the Supreme Court. It was the Dred Scott v. Sinford case. The Supreme Court ruled slaves are not citizens, but properties. The 7 justices who voted in favor of slavery were all Democrats. And the 2 justices who opposed it were both Republicans, which caused the bloody Civil War. And as the commander-in-chief was the President Abraham Lincoln, a Republican. I know there's a lot of controversy around Lincoln, but still. 6 days after the Confederate Army surrendered on April 14th, 1865, John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat, assassinated Abraham Lincoln. The vice president at the time, Andrew Johnson, a Democrat, assumed presidency. And what did he do? He opposed Lincoln's plan to integrate the newly freed slave into the South economic and social order. Andrew Johnson and the Democratic Party were strongly unified against the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. The 13th Amendment in 1865, which abolished slavery, they were against it. The 14th Amendment in 1866, which gives citizenships to black, they were against it. And the 15th Amendment in 1869, which gave blacks the right to vote, they were against it. Keep in mind that all 3 passed only because of the universal Republican support. Yep. During the Reconstruction period in 1865 to 1877, the federal troops in the South helped secure the rights of the newly freed slave. As a result, hundreds of black men were elected in the southern state legislatures as Republican. And by 1900, 22 black men served in the U.S. Congress. It wasn't until 1935 that the Democratic Party elected a black man. But as soon as the Reconstruction ended, the federal troops went back home, the Democrats took back the power and quickly reestablished white supremacy with measures like black codes, poll taxes, and literacy tests. The black codes are laws that restricted blacks to own properties and businesses. The poll tax was a way to keep blacks from voting because of the disproportionate poverty of the blacks in the South. They wouldn't be able to pay to vote. And if somehow they were able to pay, they were now facing a literacy test. Because most black didn't know how to read. They were newly freed slaves. Can't read, can't vote. And how do you think they were able to enforce all that? By terrorizing the black community. The Democrats had to form a group that would play a major role in instigating those laws. The name of this group is, yes, you guessed it, the Ku Klux Klan, formed by a Democrat named Nathan Bedford Forrest, an ex-general. Yep, a well-respected professor of history, Eric Forner, said, in effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interest of the Democratic Party. In 1912 to 1921, the President Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, also was a supporter of the KKK. He resegregated many federal agencies, The government also began requiring photographs of civil service application to better enable racial screening. And even screened the first movie in the White House, The Birth of a Nation, racist movie by the way, originally titled The Klansman. In 1964, in effort to outlaw discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin, the Civil Rights Act has been introduced. 80% of Republicans supported the bill. Less than 70% of Democrats did. The bill was filibustered for 75 days by the Democratic senators, and thankfully, the Republicans were able to squeeze the few extra votes needed to pass the bill. When the Democrats had failed to keep the blacks enslaved and keep them from voting, they had to find another way. If the blacks are going to vote, they might as well vote Democrats. The president, Lyndon Johnson, said, "I will have them Negroes voting Democrats for 200 years. It was planned all along." How, you ask? Well, massive government welfare. This type of welfare and government assistance has decimated the black family. You get paid if the man is not in the picture. Government assistance is just a way to keep you from getting out of poverty by giving you just a little bit, just enough to get by, but keep you coming back for more. One more thing is the opposition to school choice. That has kept the black community from better education. If you're not well educated, how are you going to secure a job and get out of this poverty cycle? If not educated, how do you expect not to be part of the street life, as they call it? I can go on and on and on. Look at the crime rate of the blue states and tell me that it helps the black community in any type of way. They created the criminals. That's why they are also soft on them. They know exactly how to solve the problem, but they won't. Because if you can take care of yourself, you won't need the government to assist you with a little bit of money. Just the very bare minimum. Don't rely on the government and have a good education. Wake up, say enough is enough, and take your life into your own hands. The Democratic Party has you believe that the Republican Party is the mean and racist one, when in reality, they are and always has been the evil guys. Now it's up to you. It's either you accept the truth or you choose to remain oblivious to it. In the next episode, I will tell you why I can't never be Republican, even though it's obvious that I can never be a Democrat. And as always, thank you for your time. It is very, very appreciated. See you on the next one.